I hate that new setting. It's so loud when it does that.
I didn't know they were doing that. They just popped up.
Yeah, it's brand new now, basically. Hello, Caleb, Richard. Both good to see both of you here. Lindsay, glad to see you as well. Tanya, what's up? We got Nancy, we got Linda as well, Megan, a whole bunch of people coming in all at once, which is awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hello, Allison. What up, Mom? And Vicky as well. We will get started here in just a quick second. Yo, yo, yo. I just pictured Tanya like rapping all of a sudden. I don't know why. Tanya Schulte would be great. Right. We got Seth here as well. Awesome. And let's get this rocking. Need theme music. We need a theme song. Hello, Chris. Thank you for joining me this week for weekly sessions. How are you doing, my friend?
What's out in Matthew? Great to be here. All is great.
Always a pleasure having a good conversation with you. So we're gonna have a little bit of fun with you. First, I'm gonna kind of grill you a little bit about your past, but then we're gonna talk about one of the conversations you and I have had quite a few times. You try to help me better understand the idea of work-life balance. I don't think I could even spell it right if I tried. So
Work in progress. How about that?
that works too. That works very well. So I love it. So everybody in the comments today, I'd love to hear from everybody. Do you feel you have a good work-life balance figured out yet? Yes or no? And if you want, tell us a little bit more. That would be awesome, please. And I'm going to jump in. We got some slides to kind of show you, which then you get to tell us. I'm going to have you do the bio by telling us all about you. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Awesome.
The comments are hilarious, by the way. Somebody said, throw me on the grill. I think it depends on the time of year for work-life balance. There's some good ones in there.
All right. So what we've got, and we've got Jan joining us also on Facebook. She says, hello. So as you guys can tell, we got Chris here with us. Awesome. So Chris, I was doing a little bit of digging up on your past, which I know we've talked about this before. I forget every time you are a fellow gaucho, that we both went to UCSB and we both got that, BA economics degree.
Got that bond. It goes deep.
Yes.
It goes deep. You can feel it in the soul.
It also just makes me realize I really could have accomplished a lot more with my degree if I tried harder. It could have
I
been
have a feeling you're a lot younger than I. So I think you're putting that all up on screen here, everybody to know. But yeah,
yeah, it was a beautiful school, that's for sure. Now, so once you were done with, so you were working at Arthur Andersen. When did you finish up at college? And tell me how that plays into your first work stuff here, starting with Arthur Andersen.
Sure. Yeah, I graduated at UCSB '93 and went straight back home to San Jose, that whole Bay Area, and started working as an auditor at Arthur Andersen. And great job, loved it to pieces, but it was directly from school to work.
I bet it was pretty difficult to do both all at the same time, right? So
yeah, it's pretty standard track.
What was with Arthur Andersen? What was one of your favorite memories? Tell us something that was unique about that experience for you.
As an auditor, great job because you get to see so many different companies. So I had everything from a small eyeglass manufacturer over in Santa Cruz, all the way to Oracle, Oracle Systems. Rode in the elevator, went to Larry Ellison, didn't know what to say, stood there quietly as we went up the building together. But just such a wide variety, great people, constantly changing, just learning a ton, getting to see a lot of different cultures, a lot of different industries. It's just a super, super job. So, and I love accounting, so it was fun.
I always forget, it's really easy to forget that you have this accounting background, which is really one of the things that makes you very unique in our industry, is having that full knowledge to work in the accounting sphere. Because so many times we get somebody that, you'll have a developer comes up with an idea, but they have no idea of the real context of stuff. So I love it. What was C Cube System or Microsystems?
Oh, that company's a ton of fun. It was a digital video semiconductor company. So back then, if you've ever had a DVD player
Yep.
in the 90s that was, doing all the video encode decodes, well, it was DVD in the home is all decode. We
Okay.
had 99% of the market for DVD decode. We had
Wow.
basically 100% of the market for digital video encode. So if you ever had like an Echo Star dish or anything like that, all those massive encoding head ends use a lot of silicon to essentially digitize an analog video and audio stream, multiplex it, put it on a carrier signal, beam it. And so we had basically super majority share on PC, in the home set-top boxes and players, and on encoding stations. So company even won a Grammy for all that. So that was an absolute rocket ship. But as time progressed, digital video got absorbed onto, just
Netflix.
general CPUs. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, and is this when you started your first company you started? Because everybody knows you from Liscio, right? But that's not your first startup. Was Spring Ahead. Am I getting this right? Is this like,
Yeah, yeah.
tell what was that about? I know it's in the accounting sphere also, but what is it?
It was time and billing for people who most of our customers were consulting firms. So you're going to put people out in the field, you need to track their hours, and need to convert them into invoices and push them through payroll, either AP or through payroll. And so we built Spring Ahead for that. It was back in the day, it was called an ASP platform. It was before SaaS was a thing, but it was subscription software.
.asp? Is that what you mean?
No, it was not .asp. It was just they call them ASP companies.
Okay.
And we built that software, and our big break really was the QuickBooks desktop ecosystem. We got leads like you couldn't imagine from the old QBD marketplace. And
Wow.
so, yeah, that was a good company.
So after that, what was your next step? I believe so. This company, I believe, was acquired. Was it acquired by somebody else?
Yeah, that and Tally. So we had two platforms, Spring Ahead, and we built Tally. It's on a more modern. Okay, we go to Occam. We go Occam too. That's a Santa Barbara company.
Ah,
yeah.
Okay. What was Occam?
That company was sold also, but Occam Networks was a telephone equipment manufacturer. We offered voice, video, and data over Ethernet. So it was way ahead of its time. So it was basically the triple play over Ethernet. So we made the hardware and the software that would go in rural telephone networks. So if you're in a big city, Verizon, all them, they've got you covered. But when you start going to the country, there's something pretty obscure called the Rural Electrification Act, and it ensures that every American has access to essentially telephone services, but now pretty much also broadband, right? So you can be on a farm 50 miles off any road, and you're pretty much guaranteed to get a phone line, right? It's because of that act. And so if you have lower density, living environments, we made a lot of the equipment that would service them. And so you put these boxes in essentially our boxes go inside a telephone cabinet. That telephone cabinet would have the copper going to it, or the fiber, or whatever. And from that, we would distribute voice, video, and data to the locals. So really, really cool.
So then you got into Tally, was I think the next round, right? And you were there for quite some time. I've heard from a lot of people that Tally just hasn't been the same since you left.
Oh, they're very kind people saying that. So very kind. But yeah, that was a good ride. So that was actually part of the Spring Ahead. Spring Ahead and Tally were the same time.
Oh, okay. So did Tally acquire the other one?
No, we started with the Spring Ahead brand that was really strong in the time and billing side, and then technology was changing an awful lot back then. So we moved to a new code base. We're on C++. We moved to .NET framework. With MVC, it's just technologically, we wanted to have a more modern platform. That's when we started from a clean slate and built Tally. And so we built that up. And then both of those companies were acquired.
And so, of course, then that brings us up to now, basically current time with your more recent company, just a little bit over 4 years now with Liscio, I believe is correct, right?
Yeah, it goes quickly. It goes quickly.
Really, really fast.
Yeah.
Which now you've been building up a team. So I wanted to share this background more with people because I don't think everybody knows as much. They don't know everything that you've already done, right, in your career. So the different teams you've helped develop, everything else. And it kind of brings us towards the bigger kind of conversation of the day, which is, like we were saying, work-life balance concept. You had shared an article with me earlier today. Do you mind, tell me what was that article about again? And
Yeah. Let me call that up. It was in Accounting Today,
okay,
and it was about KPMG, right? So a lot of my former colleagues and managers, et cetera, ended up at KPMG actually. And so the title of the article is KPMG launches relaxed work policies to combat remote work fatigue. To combat remote work fatigue. And this is, I think, back in the Arthur Anderson days, nobody would ever talk about work fatigue. That was, nobody, how could you ever say that, right? It wasn't part of the vernacular. I thought it was really interesting because now we see one of the big four coming out and saying, hey, look, they're talking a lot about stress. They're talking a lot about work-life balance. And this is a great conversation to have, and obviously a necessary conversation to have for many of us who, over the last, year and a half, have
a
had
lot. Yeah.
probably decidedly different work-life balance, I'd say.
Yeah, so January of last year, I went on a trip out to India to go visit analytics. And while I was out there, it was the first time I'd taken a really long trip anywhere. So I was gone for 3 weeks, and it made me realize that, you know what, you can step away from your business and things are going to be okay. The place is not going to burn down, and you need to try to focus more energy and attention towards regaining that work-life balance, right? So many entrepreneurs, when you're just getting started, it's just hustle, hustle, hustle all the time. And I was motivated and dedicated to make that happen. And then COVID hit and we all started working from home again. And I just, right. And it's
Why'd you go?
um,
What happened? What was the cause of the?
working from home. So, I have an office and I was able to basically start separating the two. Like when I went to the office, I was working. And when I wasn't, I'd come back home and be able to go walk my dogs, do whatever. As soon as it came back into everything kind of being closed down and working from my house, and the only issue I'd have to deal with is my two-dog pileup from the bedroom to the front room. There was nothing else to do but to continue work, work, work. And then, of course, there was that nasty little letter P that got involved in the mix of all of it that helped absorb a lot of time too. So um, it ruined that balance. I know we've talked about it a couple times over the last year. So what are you doing for your team? Like, I know that's something that's important to you, and how are you trying to balance against that?
I think we very much feel the same things. It's singularity, right? Like working from home should be straight awesome, right? If you think like the potential of so many of the different things, right? One of them is no commute. Like that's free time. How cool is that?
To work more.
And yeah, if you choose to, right? This is
No, I
probably
know it shouldn't be that
the
way.
conversation. Yeah, but I love wearing knits. It's gonna be hard to get me back into wovens because anything stretchy just feels so good now after the last year, you know. But there's
Yeah,
so many great things about this whole notion that, working from home in theory should be just super amazing. Laundry, you can run the laundry, I mean, all this stuff. You can kind of multitask in a better way. So I guess the question is kind of what went wrong? Like up from my perspective, the first year of COVID, I probably dug a hole so far deep, I had no idea where up was anymore. Because my whole thing was, oh, pandemic's here. I'm going to go ahead and what a great time to really accelerate a bunch of the stuff I want to get done at work. And so I just said, I'm home. I might as well work gangbusters.
yeah.
But I didn't realize I was just building a whole bunch of deficits,
Oh
which
boy,
is
you
pretty
nailed
crazy.
it. You nailed it, right? Explain that
Yeah,
a little bit deeper to everybody else, but I get it. Explain it to everybody else if you don't mind.
sure. Well, I think, I kind of go if you kind of peel it all the way back, like the accounting profession, by and large, was dictated by a lot of people who worked for the large accounting firms,
Okay.
right? And the badge of honor Like I ended up at Oracle, which was the crown jewel account for Arthur Andersen San Jose. I ended up there because I was willing to do anything. I was always, it was yes, 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 all the way across. I would never say no to anything. And when we go in to help a client, you go in there to really help a client, right? It's, you say jump, they say jump, we say how high, and we make it happen. So we parachute into places and work, 5, 6, 7 days a week, sometimes before dawn till, well after sunset. And that, was always, it's always been a client service business. So we apply ourselves with great diligence, with great care, with maximum dedication to what we do. So if we take that as the as the fount of so much of the behavior in accounting, because the diaspora coming out of these firms, they start firms, we all become accountants maybe in the private world, right? But then we bring home that thing. And that structure has been there for decades, right? Certainly predates us. And so if that's kind of the metronome, if they're setting the metronome and setting the tempo for how we work and how we service clients, of course, we're going to model our own behaviors after that to a certain extent, right? We're all
Trained into
getting,
it that way. Absolutely.
yeah,
It just becomes an absolute habit. It's hard to break it.
yeah. It's actually taken at face value. It's actually not a bad habit because we care about the results. We care about our clients. We super care about everything. So giving of ourselves seems quite logical, right? And quite rewarding. I never felt like it was subtracting from me. My giving doesn't necessarily mentally subtract from me until it goes too far, right? And the singularity of work and home, when those two things start to collide, that's the part where, like you say, like you had the compartmentalization before of a physical office versus being at home and always everything in front of you. So I think that adventure and that process of really saying, you know what, work has seeped into pretty much everything, right? I can't go wash work off necessarily.
Yeah.
That kind of kicked off the adventure, and the experiments we're running right now inside the company. And we're running a couple of little different things here and there just to try to get our hands around what should be really powerful. And that is to unlock the full potential. You never get to the full potential, but to unlock the potential of working from home, or
Okay.
better yet, working from anywhere. Right.
I have a neighbor. He works for Patagonia, and this guy is gone all the time, right? He's driving up the other day, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, where are you, man? Like, you're never around. He's like, oh yeah, I was out camping. I'm like, don't you work? He's like, yeah, I work remotely. This guy who like I'm a cloud-based accountant who can work remotely and work from anywhere, doesn't go anywhere, and he's living his life going and just doing it from anywhere he wants around the world. It's amazing. It's like that is there when you make it your priority, right? You just have
What's
to
holding
make
you
it.
back? Yeah. What's holding you back?
I don't have a good excuse. Let me think about that before the end of the show, and then I'll try to come up with something. Can somebody in the comments please come up with a good excuse for me and put it in the comments below?
Don't let him off the hook. Keep him on the hook. We've got him where we want him. No, but seriously, Yvon Chouinard knew this early. I don't know what year he wrote this book, but I remember reading, he wrote a book called Let Your People Surf. And it must be, it's more than 10 years old now, right?
Yeah.
But I think the Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard is the founder and CEO of Patagonia. No longer CEO, founder of Patagonia. Anyway, but the whole thing is super, super successful company, crazy successful, right? And oh yeah, it's right here too. But the values of the brand and the performance of the people, right, were never hurt by being great at work-life balance. Killer, right? So we
Yes.
know the models exist. We know the models exist, but the modeling in our corner of the world, in the professional, the professional side of who we are as accountants, that part, I think we have an opportunity to really unlock and to be better at self-care. And if we're great at self-care, and this is the whole thing, right? If we're great at self-care, people are going to feel us. We are engaging with clients all the time, right? And so if we are really, really happy internally and we're full of energy and we are loving what we do, it's going to show in our client relationships. And that's great. That's a giving circle, right? So whenever we feel like, and this is where I was like, oh man, I became a hard-aholic.
A heart?
Recovering hard-aholic.
Okay.
everything was hard, right? During the pandemic, this is hard,
Oh,
that's hard, this is hard, that's hard. It became a grind. And so everything felt like I had to, oh gosh, I got to lift this weight again. Oh gosh, every single day. And then you realize, hey, it doesn't have to be hard,
yeah.
right? And so the questions, and I think that's what's happening. Go back to KPMG. This is a result of a survey they put out across their workforce. And the workforce came back and said, look, we're not happy. This is way too much. This is way too much for us mentally, the stress level, all this kind of stuff. Work has become really hard in that company. And the organization has to respond by saying, look, okay, we're going to make some changes.
Yeah.
Right. Because they know they don't have a business unless their people start to feel good. Right. And that's the trailhead. Right. Now we're at the trailhead. Now what do you do? Yeah.
That's those deficits. It's like many people out there, it's really easy to lie to yourself and think that because you're pushing harder and harder and you're trying to get more done, that, oh yeah, you may be more, you may have a spurt of efficiency, but if you're not doing that self-care, well, then you get tired and then you decide you need to take a month off, or, your body tells you that type of a situation, I guess. So
how many tax accountants have said, I'm never going to do another tax season again, right? You get to the end, it's just like, forget it. But then we recover, right? Get some good sleep, all those kinds of things. And we come back and we said, okay, I can go take another hill. But I think that's the interesting part. That's the journey. That's the mental journey of how can you do really, really great things that feel hard, get great sense of accomplishment and achievement, but also find a way and to realize, this is probably the biggest thing, to realize that when work and life, which we hesitate to say that because they're one and the same, really, right? Work and life, when they really collide like they just did, we have to realize that work and life should never have been that separate anyway. You have to enjoy the work.
yes.
You have to find a way to enjoy the work. And if you can find a way to enjoy the work and thrive and flourish in the work, then you have a chance to really build something powerful. We know work is going to be hard, but nothing worth it isn't hard anyway. So now the whole question is, can we look at the model or whatever it is we're doing that makes work hard and figure out how to reverse process engineer it into something where it feels like work is awesome? How do you catalyze hard and awesome? And I think there's probably, a ton of different components go into that. Many of which, I know a lot of people here. It'd be fun to see actually what people are doing to do that. But there's a lot to really focus on. That's really, really quite cool.
So one of the things I've always tried to focus on, I've learned a long time ago, I will never take a friend on as a client. I won't do it. It just never works great. But I love it when a client becomes a good friend. And that is the best feeling. One of my closest friends is a gentleman named Donnie. He's a total goofball. He has been a client of Parkway longer than I've been around. And we get together all the time to go have dinner and just shoot the crap and just have a good time. Because like you were talking about, that's that example of, because I do love what I do and I love helping businesses and helping people. Why not, if I'm going to work for a living, let's make it the most fun we possibly can, right?
That's it. Otherwise, why are we working? What are we doing it for, right? We're accumulating money to one end, to enjoy ourselves at some crazy future state 20 years from now.
No,
that doesn't sound like a lot of fun,
Just so your family can pay more taxes on it later, basically. But yeah.
No, we got to find a way. We got to find a way to make the whole system work. And I didn't get this. This is something I did not understand.
Okay.
I just didn't understand it. Like, literally, when I was a CFO in Santa Barbara, I wasn't going out surfing. I was literally, I can tell you, I would sleep at the office sometimes. It was just, you got to get the work done. You got to get the work. And then the motion is the motion is the motion. I was like, oh man, but I thought that's how it was,
Do you think they should start so I think back to college, and college isn't for everybody, but in college, when they're talking about business and, counting and everything else, they don't teach about how to balance life, right? If anything, what I've always said that college kind of helped teach me how to think outside the box and how to multitask. Because I lived in Ventura, drove up to school, worked while doing it. So I was already teaching myself that habit of I got to do this all the time. Where as we're building our businesses, I think most of us are all trying to get to the point where it's like, okay, I've gotten to this invisible finish line. Now I can start to relax and enjoy what I'm doing for a living and balance it all out. Like you're saying, shouldn't there be a better way to like start off right away and doing
Totally.
that?
Totally. So Allison, you all know Allison Ball. She and I talk about this because, okay, if we think about how to solve this problem, and you think about people who are crazy successful and are radiant, right? So
Good choice of words. I love that.
yeah, that's what you want. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for like people who are like, how do they do it? Like
Yeah.
they're super stoked on everything, right? And so Allison, I think, would say Brad Smith,
Okay.
right? So Intuit, former CEO, super crazy successful, right?
Yep.
And just crazy, 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 radiant as a person, on stage, off stage, in between, with the staff, with the clients, everywhere. That kind of thing is really infectious, and that's what you want. So great example. So let's start there. So what does Brad Smith have that we don't have? A bunch of natural gifts, I'm sure, but that not saying we don't have them, but he's unlocked a bunch of natural gifts that we all have, and he has the help of a coach, a life coach, right? And if you think about all the CEOs that are running around, they all have life coaches.
Great point.
Why don't we? And so who's going to be our life coach? And you can say, look, we can say it should be, something that happens as we're moving from young adulthood into adulthood at college. We could say, look, there should be something here that helps us realize our potential. And what do life coaches do? They are multidisciplinary,
Okay.
right? If you think about how much you exercise, how rigorous you are around sleep, the kind of food you eat. If you're not sleeping well, that's a whole nother topic. We can go deep into sleep.
Are we?
That's what you're doing.
Not supposed to be picking on me today, okay? But keep going.
No, you're giving everybody all the verbal
giving
cues
you
here,
all of
right? So yeah, you could do one of these. You just stand here like this, and we'll never know. But it's multidisciplinary. I know, so many. Linda's here. It's the yoga, right? It's the practice. What's the practice on the path? What's the practice on the journey? And how do you start to really say, look, for us to be our very best selves with our clients, with our families, with our coworkers, and be compassionate to ourselves. And if you're not compassionate with yourself, right? If you're hard on yourself, I tell you, if I make a mistake, I'm really hard on myself, right?
Yeah.
I really hate that. I remember I've made some mistakes on the books before, and I've had a really hard problem with that, right? Like, oh no, but we have to have a lot of self-compassion. You have to have all those things. If you think about it, then the whole thing turns into a system. And if we recognize that we don't all have the tools, then it has to start to be a discussion, right? So Allison and I, we've had a lot of these discussions,
Okay.
I think we're more or less at the trailhead here. We're not, there's no end of the journey, right? There's no summit. There's a long climb with new rewarding views along the way, trying to figure out how we can feel really, really positive all day at work. And, here's kind of the deal. If we can actually work with people and, if the people who are managers, let's say they're managers in the company, if we are able to impart a lot of this positivity across the organization and turn it into a situation where when people work with us, work for us, however you want to kind of put it, if they go outside of their job, when they get home or get off of work or wherever they go in their career, et cetera, if they look back and say, my life was enriched in every single way from my job. It never beat me down. It always raised me up. I'm not going to say it's not hard, right? But that's the coaching. So the notion is whatever they're doing with CEOs such as Brad Smith, et cetera, if we can start to impart those lessons inside the organization to make the organization flourish, now you're talking. Because now everybody in the company is like, I feel great. I want to see you. I get in a company meeting. I feel really good. I do have a one-on-one. This person's great. That's energizing. Maybe work can be an add, whereas at KPMG, they're fighting this whole thing right now, which is work has become a subtract.
I saw somebody post something like this a while back. I'll probably get it somewhat wrong, but they talk about company culture. Company culture is not having a place at work where everybody can go to and have a beer. Have a beer on tap together. Company culture is everybody wanting to stay at work and have a beer together, right?
Totally.
So that's two totally different things. And Allison actually put a great comment in here that says self-compassion is where it has to start, because otherwise you don't value yourself enough to focus on creating that system. I absolutely believe that. And then Linda Baker was asking, life coach or mentor? Like, to you, what's the difference between the two?
It's interesting. That's a great question because I'm probably not well versed enough to even really have a great opinion on that. I view a life coach as somebody that probably gives you all this stuff about, I think a life coach is probably being broader and a mentor being a little more specific. At least that's how it's been in my life. I've never had a life coach, but I have had mentors who've helped me in business.
I think
Not sure.
like for me, a life coach feels it's usually somebody that you are engaging them and asking them to help guide you along a journey. I feel the best mentors, you don't realize you were being mentored until later.
Yeah. 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 It's what's amazing about that. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How many how many people have shown that kind of genuine interest in you in your entire career outside of your family, life/career?
Um, there's one fundamental, like there are some that are close to it, but there's one person that absolutely takes the cake on this, and his name is Bob Graham. He it was in my car audio days, and he owned the largest single store car stereo shop, and I had been hired. He was selling the business. I was hired to come run it, and he put energy and attention into me. He is the first person that motivated me to write articles for the car audio industry, to get involved on an educational committee for this thing called Knowledge Fest and teach courses at these different things back in, I mean, I was 21 or something, and just always motivated that and showed me what could happen from that. And I would not be doing the things I do today if it wasn't for him. And I call him and say thank you all the time.
That's the deal, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if we can, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody here, but if everybody kind of put their number of people who are,
Yeah, in the
stand
comments,
out,
please
super
do.
awesome. The number is going to be frighteningly small compared to how many people we've interacted with, worked for, and so forth.
Yeah.
Like it's scary small. Like at least in my world, I probably would say I have 2 or 3 people who had a major impact on me. They went out of their way.
Yeah.
Right? To just, goes beyond, just kind of handing you work saying you did a good job, right? That kind of thing that's what we can tap into. Like, think of how much opportunity there is. And then we go back to like the Patagonia guy, right? So you've got a neighbor who is a shining example of what life can be, right? In terms of balance, kind of doing anything, the obstacle is removed. And now we got this whole mentoring thing, life coaching thing, whatever we want to call it, maybe some hybrid. We say we can be that to the people we intersect on a daily basis. It requires us to take our eyes off of ourselves and put our eyes on others.
I love that.
And we start to do that, and it's a practice, right? That's why I say it's a journey. I am far from finished good on any of this, but I think that's where we start to really say, okay, if we look at our values, and one of the things I started doing is gratitude journaling, and just journaling by itself, right? You start putting all this stuff down. It's helpful as a practice. And then you think of things you're grateful for. So if I'm grateful for a mentor, then I need to say, well, how come I'm not doing as much as I can be doing for others? So you start to take a look at the things you're happy and pleased with and say, okay, what behaviors can I put into practice now that I'll be proud of later, and maybe I can make a difference.
Love it.
And that starts that, at least that started the wheel for me, because I realized I was not nearly as impactful with others as I could be. Well, that's the benefit of singularity. I think the pandemic is a major catalyst for change, because we can look at it as, wow, that was 18 months that really wasn't quite so good, or wow, that was 18 months where I was like, whoa, super learned something there,
Yeah. I think that would change by industry a lot too, right? I mean, there's, definitely bookkeepers and accountants. A lot of people say this is the longest lasting tax year ever, right? To some extent. So there's something to be said about that. Do you feel, my gut tells me that you probably really understand this more once you have the opportunity to manage or lead others. That to me, I looked back on my career, my time working, and there were some great bosses and then there were some not so great bosses. And recognizing the way I was treated in certain places that I did or didn't like, and trying to always improve upon that, which to me kind of falls in line with this, because it's really, really important to me that for my team, that my team understands that they're appreciated, that they feel comfortable, that they know family comes first before anything else. And as long as, we support each other, it's super, super important. And yeah, the family comes first has always been ingrained in me, but I didn't have the ability to see it from the owner's perspective of what it means to employees until I got into a role where people had to look to me for things. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
I think there's a lot of really great stuff in there, because number one, you have the introspection, right? We have to have the introspection. I didn't have the introspection. I was so focused on achievement, client. And if your focus is entirely on the client, the eyes come off of the self. The eyes come off of the self, and we're not feeling good internally.
Yeah.
And how can we take care of others? It becomes this, wow, well, how did the pieces fit? And if you think about managers, right? So now you're the owner. That's different from managers that you have, right? How many managers have done this? When I got promoted to manager, there was really no training around the human element.
No.
It was all about the technical. Okay, so great, you're great at the technical. You get your stuff done on time and it's accurate. So now you're a manager. Okay, now what? And so if you think about this old idea of manager / life coach / mentor, right? What should a manager be? A manager should be really, really, really strong at the people stuff. And so what's the investment? What are we going to put in to our manager, to ourselves first? And then, because we have to be whole internally. Yeah. Then we have to help our managers be whole, and they in turn help people who don't have the skill set. Because nobody's graduating from college with this stuff. At least not that I know of, right?
No, I must have skipped that class. I must have ditched it or something, because it definitely.
UCSB, you might have ditched more than one or two classes. So
I know I definitely missed the How to Survive a Global Pandemic course. I definitely missed that session at UCSB, but
totally. But what we did learn is that being outside in the sunshine, moving around a lot, yes, taking sweet breaks and maybe some naps was really, really good for our physiology. And what was good for our physiology was good for our psychology.
Amen.
And so everybody comes out of Santa Barbara like, oh God, I love those 4 years. I love the 5 years, whatever it was, 6, it was just such a great time. Yeah. It was just such a great time. But because we weren't stuck in a room, right? But the psychology is fed by the physiology. And I think that's one of the big things that we're looking at. Like, if you look what KPMG is trying to do, they're trying to help people by creating a little bit more room, right? Trying to create a little bit more room. So they want people to, I think they had, I think you had a slide on this. Didn't they? What are they saying? I think they're trying to get people to walk. No, they weren't. We're doing that internally. We're trying to give people more outdoor time. We have to move.
I love that idea. And real quickly, absolutely miss you. Go Gauchos. Love it. There we go. So these were a couple ideas. I kind of reworded them, but it kind of leads back into what Accounting Today's article was talking about. Things that you could try to do within your own office space. So heads down time. When I first saw that, I thought it meant I got to take a nap at my desk, but it's not what it was saying. It's actually blocking off specific time each day or week to focus on it exclusively on work. No appointments unless they're absolutely essential, right? Guilty of that one. Shorter meetings. I've started implementing this one recently. A meeting's going to take as much time as you provide it. So instead of doing an hour, shrink it down to 45, then use that 15 to actually get your follow-up items done. And if it's normally a 30, shrink it down to a 20 and take the 10 minutes, because it will drag out otherwise, usually. And then the last one, which a little tough on this one, but if you're listening in on a webinar, unless it's Cubic Community Live's weekly sessions, you should get out, go walking around. But we want you fully focused here now. If you can, if you don't have to be on video, if you don't have to do that kind of stuff, get out, walk around, get some energy, get some sun as best you can, whatever it is that'll just kind of empower you internally. So what other ones are you doing as we get close to the time here? What else would you suggest?
Go back to the first one of these. That one's probably one of the most important to me. One more. This one, heads down time. So what they're saying is block off specific time to focus quickly on work. Do not accept any appointments during this time. So, okay. So let's think about that. So great idea. We work nights and weekends because we need dedicated workspaces.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have time set aside. But one of the biggest problems during the day is what? All the electronics, all the bang.
What did I like right before we got on? The first thing anybody who's ever come on, they know I ask every time, did you turn off all your bleeps, blurps, and chirps?
Yeah.
Right. And it's the buzzing and everything else, which takes us back to the beauty of Liscio, of course, which, right.
Oh, well, that's, you'll still get bleeps, but I think if you want to be productive, right?
Yeah.
We want to be productive, and we got, more than just us in the business. Every time we bleep somebody,
yeah,
it's 10 minutes of their life. So is the bleep worth it?
That seems like a good t-shirt. Is the bleep worth it? I don't know, but
it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It seriously isn't worth it. So what we do is we used to use Teams. We were using Teams like crazy into the pandemic. And what happens is chat apps create crazy anxiety. And they lash everybody to their desks because it becomes a game of, oh, I have something waiting for me. First of all, I need to take a look at it. And then if I take a look at it, I don't need to deal with it right now. I still have overhead and anxiety. If I deal with it right now, I'm certainly fully context switched off of the one I'm trying to get done. And so it's so easy, just go bloop, 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 bloop. And if I send a group text out, that's the worst thing that happened because everybody's going to look at it. I just took the entire organization and context switched them.
Yeah. So
the question then is, what or how many messages a day are really worth it and can't wait until a set aside time when we could be going through and answering questions, when we're not doing deep work?
When you said that, it came to my mind as well, but somebody else was saying it, treat it like email and set it aside, time to look at all of them at once. So imagine like boomerang with email. Imagine if there was a setting in all these things that you could say, because I think when we're sending it, it's because we don't want to forget that one thing, right? So we go boom, 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 we send it. And if we could boomerang and say, okay, you can't send, I don't care if there's 10 of them, send all 10 as one at 4 p.m. or something, whatever. Or if the person could actually set the time they want to receive them, right? Would be great.
And here's the deal: we all want to know what's happening in our business. So how many managers and partners and founders, that kind of thing, are going to turn off their bleeps? It kind of seems like I won't do it. I mute a lot of stuff, but if Allison wants me, she can bleep me anytime, and I'll always look. So it becomes this whole thing of what tool's right for the job. So in our case, email is super snail. Yeah. So I can check email once in a blue moon. But when somebody really wants a response from me, they can hit me up in Teams and I will look. But I mute all the channels. So it becomes like a bat phone. It's like the red urgent phone.
That was Teams, you said, right? Not Slack. Seth, David.
I have both. So.
Oh, dang it. Yeah. Yeah, but so the Teams is the challenge because that becomes just a different place with the bleeps. But at least it's organized bleeps, right?
Yes. Yeah, we're going to get them. But then you start thinking, because we all have email anxiety. So email piles up, right? How many emails are casual emails?
I love email.
Are you serious? Wait, what?
Like, no, it's my least favorite thing in the world.
Yeah. We got to cut all that down. We got to say, look, email is it goes back to this thing. All this technology, if you read, The Economist or whatever, it says the American labor force at large has not enjoyed a productivity boom in step with all the software development. Our GDP per employee is creeping at like 2% a year. It just, you think with all this tech relative to 10 years ago and 20 years ago, we would be massively more productive. But you look
Yeah,
at it, the GDP is not improving. It's because we're super, super distracted all the time. We're
that's a
crazy
very
distracted.
interesting statistic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just everybody says, why aren't American laborers just enjoying a productivity boom like none other? And it's because we're sitting here just fully distracted.
So Seth says he reserves the right to not respond for one business day on anything. A, if it's an emergency, dial 911. B, if it's really urgent, then you call me. Tony's saying loved the discussion. We're getting right up to the moment of time here, so love it, dude. You're always welcome on anytime. It's always a fun time talking with you guys, with you, of course. So I do want to real quickly share a couple quick slides. I want to let everybody know. I guess today is the day they opened up the voting for the current top 100 pro advisors. So be sure to get out there and vote for those who you think are deserving of it. There's a lot of great new people on there that you'd help like make their world with this stuff. So that's an important one. And then for next week's yes, I happen to be on there, but thank you. Next week's host, what I'm actually going to do is do an open house on purpose. That means I want anybody that's watching this to reach out if you want to come up. We're going to have more than one host. There's going to be some stuff for us to discuss, of course, and just open conversation. So I would love for you guys to join me as an open house up on video. Chris, you're welcome to come back as well if you'd like. If you've got the time, it would be awesome.
I'll make that happen.
Awesome. And then I always like to try to promote other people's future events. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that everybody has seen or heard that I've now put together a community calendar. It's a calendar that anybody can go and post their own events onto. So the goal is to be able to show this every single time. You can go to link it, find out what's coming up from anybody at any place. So definitely want you guys to check it out. I'll put the link in the show comments as well. And then we've got Seth is doing his, I think this is the last one, right, Seth, for your Liscio special courses. Should be this last Friday, tomorrow. We've got right after this, like if I keep talking, you're going to be late for it. Two amazing people are joining forces and they're doing a special Woodard group that you can join in and check out today. So definitely check that one out. Another Woodard group one is going to be Ingrid and Charday with Plate IQ. That's going to be June 9th. So just definitely want to help promote other people's events. You guys reach out to me, connect with us. We'll help promote that stuff as well. Any last words, any last things to add on, my friend?
Keep moving, my man. Yeah, great work, great stuff. Love being on. Thank you so much for having me, and look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you for all the support always, and to everybody, as always, here's wishing you all a very successful week. Bye, guys.